Okay, so there is a problem here, as detected. Walls have many layers, and we'll see that actually right now. And actually, some layers of this wall really snap to the roof, but there's an exterior layer here that did not. The reason is that if I go to the top view, let's say level 3, select the roof and say edit footprint, we should be able to see that offset. You see there? That's when you should say MV as in move and start snapping to the exteriors. Now, this is obviously not a great job in terms of alignment to the grids, but you know, if you say OK now, actually I could check around, see if it's OK around. It's fine. Say OK, 3D. Let's see if we can detach. Still not there, huh? So let's select that one again. Oh, it could be the other. Edit, footprint, move. And now you select, attach, roof, bah. So it's all a matter of that little gap could create trouble. That actually is good news. That means that Revit is quite precise and exact. So okay, good. Now, because it's attached top base, I can select the roof, edit it again as many times as I want, create slopes, and it will follow along because it's attached. Somehow has a memory that relates to the bottom of the roof. Okay. Select, edit, select, define, and there you go. And not only, if I go to wireframe and WF, all the interior walls, you see how they're snapping to the bottom of the roofs. It's very convenient. There are other types of doing roofs, obviously, because not all the roofs can be designed with slopes, as you probably are understanding now. So we're going to see later on other types of roofs, which is roof by extrusion. And then you can do a roof by face. That's a more like a second step that we'll do later on. Yeah, sophisticated. Roof by extrusion basically is going to ask you, wait, where do you want to draw this? You draw a line and extrude it, okay? So I'm not going to do it, but you should definitely test it if you want. Okay, so we don't have any, we have one section here. And here we have a classic issue with the cropping view. Remember that in the bottom we have either crop yes, crop no. But we also have see it, see the cropping line and not see it. So if you want to move that, everything moves. Okay. Good. Okay, just talking about walls, and very briefly, because there's many other issues about walls. You can say wall, and if you don't find exactly the type of wall you want, which is most probably in some complex projects, you probably want to start with the type of wall that is similar to the one you want, and then edit the type. Here's where you're gonna find all those layers, and we're gonna talk that in a specific class only about that, because pretty much like partition types. Okay, so if you say edit type, and you press under structure edit, and you say preview, you can get each of the layers of a wall and the representation of it right here. If you click there, it's going to even tell you what layer it is each time. It's telling you the thickness of that layer. It's telling you what it is, and it's telling you what the material is made of. Very, very important. Obviously, you can create any type of wall you want as long as you know what materials are for each of the layers, no? So I'm going to keep it there, but just keep in very mind that you can actually create any type of wall and any type of floor, any type of roof. Anything that regards to layering, you can create more layers or delete layers, change the thickness of the layers, and then create a type. And when you create, for example, your roof, you can select here the type you just created. Let's say you created more layers, and this is the one you create the roof you want. No? I'm going to say no, because that's what we want, okay? I'm going to do another section. View, section, etc. You can double click and see that section automatically. No? Good. Doors and windows. Doors and windows are actually expecting a host. They're a host. They need a wall. They need an element to be attached to. No? So if I select under architecture window, you cannot place it in a grid. You cannot place it in an elevation symbol. You cannot place it anywhere but in a wall. When you get close to a wall, you can press anytime you want, and you will be able to place the wall. But before I place it, make sure that you understand that you can place the window either towards the interior or exterior, depending on where you place it, okay? That is important. Then you click, and there is the window. I'm going to go to the 3D, hidden line, and there is the window. A window basically cuts the wall, respects the wall in that area, and places a 3D model associated to the wall. Meaning if I move this wall, that window will move, okay? I can select the window and move it around, but I can also move windows and any other object by clicking on the number, placing 20, and it moves the window. I'm going to do that little thing again. You see when you select something that it always gives you more information than the information you seem to need. For example, I select this little partition, it tells me, hey, is distance to the axis of this other partition this dimension, and to the axis of this other dimension, this other one. That seems annoying in the beginning, but it becomes extremely important, okay? If you select, you can select after selecting the object, the dimension. And changing the number changes the object position. That goes for almost anything. If I select a grid, it's going to tell me a couple dimensions and a couple other things. That also goes with dimensioning. If I go to annotate, and this we will see next class a lot, you can say, give me an aligned dimension between these two grids. You can use dimensions for more than just representing a dimension as you do in AutoCAD. You can select an object you want to change and select a dimension you want to change, say 50. And it changes the object. I'm going to do it again. DI is for dimensioning. I'm going to say that from the axis to the axis is 31, 9, and 5/8. And I want to move this wall so it's actually 32 exactly. Now you're going to get crazy, and this is the very important moment to attend now. If you want to move this wall by using its dimension, you cannot double click on the dimension. You can double click, but you won't change the number. You have to select first what you want to change. Partition. I want to move it. And then you select the dimension, 32. And it moves the wall and changes the dimension. I don't know if you get the logic, but basically dimensions are more important than just representation of a dimension. It also allows you to change objects within your plans and your elevations, etc. Okay. Good. There's obviously many other features under annotate, such as leaders and all kinds of symbols, etc. But I'm going to keep it there. I never did the terrain. I don't know if anybody had trouble with the terrain. You cannot do, well, you can, but the best place to do a terrain is under the site. If you double click on site and you go to maintenance site here in the top, you have top of surface, allows you to place as many points as you want, and you can change the height of the points as you put them in to create slopes. You just say OK at the end, 3D, and there you have it. So obviously, as you create the terrain, if you have a slope, the building is going to be crossing the terrain. So probably what you want to do, obviously if you have this terrain, you have to solve the architecture, but in my case I'm just going to select the terrain, edit the surface, and I'm going to just place a couple points. Place point 0, and say OK. So I make sure that the house is there. Otherwise, it's a matter of redoing your architecture for the slope you're working in. No? As I said before, you also have components that you can add, like trees of different kind. There are actually many other components and many other features that you can incorporate in your site, and we'll see actually how you can load any type of component that you want, which are called families. We'll see that in detail in another recording. Okay, the second you put a terrain, you can go to sections and you get this hatch. It makes more sense than what we had before, I think. Okay, so as I said before, I created a sheet by right-clicking, create sheet. I went to title blocks and I created this 2234. You just have to drag in whatever view you want. So let's just drag the view 1, and there it comes. Now, it's going to understand every element that you have incorporated, so the trees are going to be kind of expanding the view, and you probably want that or not. Obviously, for construction documents, we're not going to place trees until we get to the end where we're going to render and so. But again, it's very simple. You can delete also the window and drag in, for example, an elevation. You can drag as many objects or views, into your sheet, as long as they are of good scale and they fit in your sheet, and you can tell the story of the house, meaning you represent the house correctly. You can do it as best as you can. Now, scale. Before you drag in a view, I recommend that you go to that view and you make sure that the scale you're working in is the one you want to show in the sheet. So change the scale there, 1/16, for example. The scale matters, and also matters what ingredients you have. Again, to hide and unhide, I'm going to talk about it in the next section, but basically you select, you can right click and start hiding in view categories or elements. Okay, I'll talk about categories right after in the next video, but you can hide categories, the whole thing, Control C, select, right click, hide elements. You only hide one of the elements.